Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead. Another series on living off the land. We've been asked several questions about, Danny, what are the trees in your yard? What kind of trees is that in your yard? So I want to give you a close-up picture here right quick of a limb of one of these trees, and then we'll talk about what it is. Okay guys, the trees you see in the background here, this one, let's rotate around over here to this one. These are what's called a black gum tree. Now, black gums have a tremendous history here in the U.S., and let's talk a little bit about that. Okay guys, we're back up here now. We're going to talk a little bit about these black gum trees. Now, these trees have a tremendous heritage here in the United States. They go all the way back to the Native Americans when they originally lived on this land here, and then with the Pilgrims when they came in, and then our forefathers used these trees. These trees have versatile, I mean literally multiple uses in them. Now, one of the first things that we notice about this tree is its texture. The grains in this tree, literally, they don't run up and down parallel like like other grains in other woods do. These literally, if you took your fingers and mapped them over like this, that's the way the grains in this wood do. They're so twisted up. They won't do for firewood. Now, they'll burn in a wood heater in small pieces. They will not burn in a fireplace hardly. You cannot bust them with an axe because the grains is just too twisted. A wood splitter will just push into them and just lock up usually, or it'll just twist the wood around to a point where it's hardly worth even fooling with. But the wood is extremely tough. It is extremely durable. Now, one of the bad things about these trees is when they start getting some age to them, like say 100 years old or so, the top starts to die in them. And when the top starts to die in them, what happens is the trees become hollow in the middle. Now, you'll find these trees in a black gum. They're called in a black gum series. You actually have several black gum type trees. You have the black gum tree, like this is called a hill black gum. Now, where you see this tree growing out on a hill at, there's always water there within 10 to 15 feet of the top of the ground. And if you'll look to my side right here, you'll notice, guess what we have right here beside them? When I put my well down, I saw these trees here, and I knew water was close to the surface of the ground here. So I had my well drilled within 15 feet of these trees here. This well, we hit water at, I think it was 15 feet. And we drilled on down to like 60 feet. And perfectly good drinking water. It's real good water. We had no problem with it. It's good cold water. Matter of fact, it's the same water we believe that runs out of the hill at the very bottom down there. But this is one of the trees. The hill black gum is one of them in the series of the black gum trees. Now, there's a tupla gum, tupla black gum, if you will. We have multiple types of gums. There are red gums, sweet gums, and all these other kind of gums, but we're basically today talking about the black gum. Now, the tupla gum, Tupelo, or whatever you want to call it, black gum, it predominantly grows in water in a wet location. Now, the Native Americans, as well as the early settlers and my forefathers, even myself, you dig down and get the roots up off of this tupelo gum tree, and it can have corks made out of it. Literally, it floats on the water. If you're in the woods trying to survive, you can actually use pieces of this root to make corks with, so that you can go fishing with them. And the Native Americans knew that, as well as my forefathers. The Pilgrims, these people learned all this stuff, and we all knew it here on the land. Now, this is one of the aspects of this particular type of tree. Now, we do have the tupla gum on our property in a wet location back here. It's fantastic for using. It's one of the best survival things I found when I'm fishing. You go out, you don't necessarily have to carry corks with you if you know where to look for these roots at in these trees. You just dig around the bottom of the tree and break one of these pieces up. But now this hill black gum here, this hill black gum is a completely different tree. Now, this is one of the best trees you really want in your landscape. This tree is not going to blow over on your house during a storm. I've hardly ever in my life seen one blown over by a hurricane or tornado. Even after Hurricane Katrina came through, a couple of these trees were leaned a little bit. Some of the limbs were broke up on them. But the trees, guys, when they first come up, they put a taproot in the ground. The tree may not be 10 inches tall, but the taproot may be 2 feet long down in the ground, because the taproot just goes straight down to water. And it hunts water. So wherever these trees are at, there's usually water close to the surface at now, like we talked about before. But now this tree will be loaded with hundreds of thousands of little berries that get on it. Now when the berries get on these trees, the Native Americans use these berries. A lot of people use them. Now I personally have not used them to make jelly out of. They said once they turn black, you can actually use them to make jellies and jams. I've never done that, so I'm not endorsing that. I'm just telling you what research says and what I've been told over my life history of people talking to me about these particular trees. Now, if this tree is in your landscape, you can buy them, and they can be planted where there's not water, but they do better where it's damp at. But the berries are fantastic for wildlife. If you're a wildlife lover, squirrels, birds, deer, coons, all these kind of animals love these berries, and they'll come in here by the piles when the fall, when these trees, the berries start turning black. And when, as I mentioned, the fall, another one of the things we notice about this tree is in the fall, it is the first tree for the leaves to turn dark red on and fall off of. Usually these trees will be completely bare before any other tree already begins to turn its leaves, other than a wild cherry and a sassafras. Now we're talking about trees in the south now. Now these trees I mentioned a while ago, the tops begin to die on them first and they become hollow. Our forefathers would look for these trees that were hollow, and they would cut them down, and they would make what was called bee gums out of them. They would take the hollow part of it and they put a board on the bottom, they put a board on the top that they could take off, and they would cut a hole in the side of it, and they would put wooden crosses in it and fasten it in it so that the bees could attach their honey to these things, and then when they got ready to rob them, they would go in and take these crosses and cut the honey out of them. These trees also, when they're in the woods, you'll notice it's a good home for lots of animals. Coons live in them, possums live in them, squirrels live in them. You know, I have actually seen these trees in the swamps big enough that I could walk inside them. I've actually been inside one that was like 8 feet in diameter, that made it just a giant teepee on the inside in the bottom of a river swamp. And small black bears can live in them if they're in that area. They den over them in the winter times and stuff. So there's lots of animals that actually live up inside these trees once they get to be massive trees and live. And they can live to be hundreds of years old. Also, one of the other things we notice about these trees is because logging has become so prevalent in our country today, lots of these trees, the bigger ones, especially in the river swamps, have been cut out because of the pallet wood industry, because these trees are extremely durable. Pile driving companies like to have the black gums and the beech wood to go on the ends of the concrete pillars that they drive in, or between the metal blocks where they drive pilings in, because this stuff is so hard it won't bust and shatter up and stuff like that. And the pallet mills love these trees because they'll take them and literally they cut pallet wood out of them because it's so durable. Railroad cross ties are made out of them a lot of times if they find them big enough in the river swamps to cut down. The gum trees make great railroad ties because of their just durability. They also make good handles for stuff if you can find the young ones. You know, you're not going to bust and cut nothing out of one of them like you would a white oak or a hickory or something like that, or an ash. But if you find the small black gum trees that are long and straight, say maybe 20 feet tall, growing in the swamps where they're stretching for sunlight, these make fantastic handles. Sometimes they use them to make shepherd staffs out of. They make just lots of different things where you need durability and toughness. Now, I personally have never made a bow out of one of them, but I have read where the Native Americans have used these trees to make bows with. Now, I don't know a lot about that history on that. I have actually read it before because of their strength and their durability. Guys, this tree, once you learn it in the landscape, if you're having to survive off the land and you're needing, and you have a homestead, let's just say you just bought a new homestead, and you come out there and you see one of these trees here and you go, wow, I have black gum trees on my land. We have 3 of them right here beside me. You automatically know this is a place I need to drill my well at right here because there's water here. There's no need even going around looking anywhere else. If there's poplars, black gums, any of these trees growing in this region right here, we have water right here, so we can put our well down. These trees are really good. They say that they have more of a sorghum taste. I've read that the berries actually, once they're completely ripe and black, that they have, it's not a bitter taste, it's kind of a sweet taste to them. I personally don't know that because I've never eaten one of them. I just know what I've heard older people say, you know, that's out in the woods and had to have something to snack on. They'd, in the fall while they were squirrel hunting, they said they'd just grab one and eat on it every occasionally. But guys, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about this particular tree in the landscape or in the wilderness or in the woods or wherever you're at on your homestead. If you find it, it is an important tree for you. One other thing I'm going to mention here, and because I'm not a doctor, I don't endorse any medical research or anything like that, but I have studied where the bark and the root of these trees also have medicinal purposes to them. Now, I'm not going to go into that. That's something if you want to Google it and find out, you know, that'd be perfectly fine for you to do, but I do not here at Deep South Homestead go online and tell somebody this tree can be used to cure this or do that. I will just simply tell you that it does have, the bark and the root has medicinal purposes to it also. So guys, I wanted to bring this tree to your attention. If it's in your landscape on your homestead, pay attention to it, do your research on it, and some of the things I've told you this tree can be used for is a very beneficial tree to have on your, you know, in your landscape, on your land. And guys, we love it here at Deep South Homestead because if nothing else, Wanda and I sit out here on the front porch and we look at these trees because they don't grow real tall if they're out in the opening. They make a beautiful canopy and they load up with these berries. There's like I told you, there's hundreds of thousands of them on the tree. And they, when the leaves fall off of them, they don't leave a huge mess in the yard. They usually go away pretty quick. Lots of wildlife comes into them, lots of birds. If you like to watch birds, it's fantastic for that. Matter of fact, you probably hear the birds flying over right now. They're probably getting on to me, wanting me to move away from this tree because they love to come to this tree and start messing with the berries on it. Even though they're not ripe yet, they still come. So guys, thank y'all for being with us on Living Off the Land series today from Deep South Homestead, and we'll see you in the next video.